Good morning. Welcome to the forecast discussion for August 21st, 2012. Of course, it is a Tuesday and it is 8:30 a.m. And we are starting to clear out and starting a stretch of very, very nice weather, very tranquil weather for the Philadelphia and New York City metropolitan area. But first, we have to deal with some cloud cover. We have some overcast clouds, a lot of low clouds hanging around eastern Pennsylvania, southeastern New York, portions of Connecticut. Most of those low clouds are actually fog, and that fog is starting to lift. But earlier on this morning, that fog was producing visibilities below a mile in some locations. As you move towards the coast, you actually have more breaks in the cloud cover because fog didn't develop, but we still have some mid-level clouds hanging around. When we take a look at the infrared satellite picture, you can see a lot of the mid-level clouds are starting to push off the coast. Our high pressure system is starting to take full control. We still have a few weak disturbances as moving through the Tennessee River Valley and the Mississippi River Valley. This is because we have a nice big trough in place over the eastern United States. Complete opposite pattern from what we've been dealing with through much of this summer. So we are clearly in our pattern change. And with that, high pressure is actually going to take control because we are now in the, I guess you call it the center of this trough. And so we're kind of in between all these disturbances, and therefore high pressure is able to take control and remain in place for the next several days. So once these mid-level clouds leave and the low-level clouds burn off, we're actually going to be dealing with a very pleasant afternoon with scattered cloud cover and temperatures rebounding nicely into the upper 70s to lower 80s, possibly a few mid 80s around the Philadelphia metropolitan area, and most importantly, low humidity. So it's going to feel absolutely beautiful out there. And when we take a look at the water vapor satellite picture, we can really see that trough locking itself in over the eastern United States. So we have disturbances diving southwest over the plains, pivoting over the Gulf Coast, and then lifting northeast along the mid-Atlantic and southeast coast. Currently, these disturbances are starting to shift off of the mid-Atlantic and northern mid-Atlantic and New England coast, allowing high pressure to take full control and remaining in place for the next several days. What we're going to see is that this high pressure system will become the dominant high pressure system, shift towards the eastern Great Lakes, and eventually towards Maine by this weekend, leading to a weak backdoor cold front to drive south and east through New England into the northern Atlantic. No rainfall, but certainly a shift in the winds from the west to the southeast and east. That's going to transport some more cloud cover into the region for this weekend. Temperatures are going to remain in the upper 70s to mid 80s, but there will be no precipitation expected at this time for the northern Atlantic. But there is something brewing in the tropics, and I figure I'd touch on this because there's a lot of news about it. There's a lot of excitement, I guess you could call it, out there on the internet. Here we have Tropical Depression number 9. Now, Tropical Depression 9 developed this morning as of 5 a.m., finally produced enough thunderstorms around the low-level circulation to be designated as a tropical depression. Now, there's a lot of, let's call it jumping the gun, as far as the potential for impacts of this tropical depression on the eastern United States. One of the factors that, quite frankly, I think we need to watch is the amount of dry air that's involved with this system. Dry air is like poison for a tropical system. And as you can see, one of the main factors that was preventing the National Hurricane Center from naming this tropical depression a tropical depression, it's a lack of showers and thunderstorms associated with it. And as I was saying for all my premium members this morning, if the thunderstorms don't remain sustained, all this forecast is going to just fall apart because, well, no thunderstorms, well, you're not really going to have much of a tropical low pressure system. So yes, we have to keep an eye on Tropical Depression 9, and if it becomes a tropical storm, it would be, I believe, Isaac. Now, if Isaac intensifies and develops, then we'll have to see exactly where it tracks and how it's going to influence the weather pattern. But there are a lot of unknowns here. Most importantly, What happens with the troughs over the eastern United States? Will the timing be just right? And what type of impacts are going to be felt with this tropical system moving very close towards the island of Hispaniola, which has a lot of mountains and has a history of tearing apart tropical systems, even more so than what model guidance would suggest. As far as the model guidance with this tropical system, again, most of them agree that, well, we have a large ridge over the central Atlantic, and so this tropical system will move right around that large ridge. But that doesn't mean we're going to be dealing with a hurricane moving up the east coast yet. It doesn't mean that we're going to have nothing. It means we're going to keep an eye on this tropical system. Now, the fact that the track is focusing it more over the Lesser and Greater Antilles would suggest to me that the potential for significant strengthening is going to be rather difficult with it moving over many of these islands. But again, something to keep an eye on, something to keep a focus on over the next 10 days. And again, we're 10 days out. A lot can change in the next 10 days. Like, for example, the speed and intensity of the troughs over the eastern United States. They could easily move a little bit faster and kick this right out into the northern Atlantic with no impacts whatsoever. Or it could draw it into the Gulf Coast or draw it up the East Coast. We don't know yet. So we have to keep an eye on it and see exactly how this disturbance, how this tropical depression, should I say, develops and moves. As far as the rest of the forecast, using the European model guidance from the Penn State EWOL website, here we are for this evening. We have a trough again over the eastern United States, high pressure in control. That high pressure system will remain in control through the rest of the week into the weekend. Again, highs for this afternoon range from the upper 70s to lower 80s over much of the region. A few mid 80s are possible in the Philadelphia metropolitan area and the Delaware River Valley. Moving on through the rest of the week, high pressure basically settles right over the northern Mid-Atlantic, producing tranquil weather conditions. I can't rule out an isolated shower with these disturbances moving through this trough, but I think that's going to be extremely, extremely isolated. With all the dry air in place, most locations will just see some scattered cloud cover. With this high pressure system, though, situated over Maine, look for winds on Friday evening to shift to the southeast. You could see some more cloud cover along the coast, and look for temperatures again to range in the upper 70s to lower 80s, with a little bit of an increase in the humidity, especially along the coast, mostly because, well, we have winds coming off the Atlantic Ocean, and that tends to increase the humidity just a bit, since it's an ocean. High pressure again will remain in control through the weekend. Again, with that high pressure system centered more along the coast and around Maine and the Canadian Maritimes, we're going to be dealing with a little weak backdoor cold front. Not much in the way of precipitation at all, but certainly an increase in cloud cover. And that wind is going to remain from the east for the most part for this upcoming weekend. And as we head into early next week, high pressure again remains in control. And then we're going to see what exactly comes up of our tropical depression number 9, whether it's tropical storm or Hurricane Isaac at this point, and where exactly it's tracking. The European model guidance keeps this tropical low to the south of Cuba and heading towards the Caribbean island. And the reason for that is that the European model guidance puts a little bit more strength on the ridge, less strength on the trough, therefore driving the tropical low to the west rather than the northwest, like the GFS is showing. As we move on through the rest of the forecast period, we start to see a nice trough developing over the northern plains and over the northern Rockies into the Pacific Northwest. And that, of course, is going to start to lead our tropical system to move to the north finally. Again, there's a question as to whether it's moving north towards the Florida Panhandle or moving north up the coast. We don't know yet, but we're going to keep an eye on this disturbance, on this tropical low, over the next several days. Again, this is 10 days out. We have plenty of time to watch it and see what happens with it. So that is your forecast for today. Of course, I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino. Follow the latest weather information at nynjpaweather.com and nynjpaweather on Twitter and Facebook. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe out there.